Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Proper Good podcast, or welcome if it's your first time watching. I'm Lisa, and we are here at Title Pro Studios in Bolton. And yeah, this is the Proper Good podcast. Proper Good is a programme of social enterprise support and social investment, and it's hosted by Bolton CVS here in Bolton. And that's where I'm based, and we're funded by Local Access, the Foundation for Social Investment, and Better Society Capital. And that's all the kind of T's and C's at the beginning, really. So Proper Good is a programme of support for social enterprises and social economy organisations, and it exists across all of Greater Manchester and is part of a national programme. And in Bolton, what that looks like is a host of workshops, mentoring, networking events, one-to-one advice with consultants, all kinds of methods of support that we know that social enterprise leaders and social economy organisation leaders find useful in helping them really focus on the business development aspects of their social enterprise, because the aim of all of that work is to try and support the development and sustainability of a thriving social economy, because we know that if we have a thriving social economy, an economy that works for people and for planet and for the economy, that actually our places are better to live and work and be. So that's the aim of Proper Good, and that's kind of what we're doing at Bolton CVS. And the reason that we have this podcast is to be a vehicle to kind of talk about the key issues and themes for the sector, speak to interesting people about things that might be relevant, and try and maybe get under the skin a little bit of some of the stuff that we hear people talk about, maybe that's important to them, maybe that's challenging, celebrate successes, and also talk about the support that Proper Good has got on offer. So if you're watching and you're running a thing and you think, oh, actually I could do with a bit of support, then hopefully this will give you a sense of kind of the sort of stuff that we've got going on. I think this might be now like episode 8 that we've recorded, and we've spoken to a wide variety of people about a wide variety of things. And today I've got a wonderful guest who's doing some, what I think is like really, really important work centred around care, compassion, joy in our sector, and how we can, as individuals and organisations, centre those things to create sort of places, systems that can really care for people. And she's been a big part of the Proper Good programme. So why don't you introduce yourself, my love?
Lovely, thank you. My name's Kerry, and I run a brilliant thing with my 2 sisters. So we teach something called Healing Centred Design, which brings together trauma-informed practice with creative coaching and systems thinking. So that's lots of kind of slightly jargony words, but basically we don't want people to work in ways that are harmful. So we think that quite often in health, social care, charity, systems and communities, we're trying to do good, we're trying to do proper good, but we're often doing it in ways that are harmful for ourselves. So I'm talking about back-to-back meetings, running out of time, spinning plates, lack of capacity, burnout, all of those things. So the way that we try and counteract that is by creating spaces for people to design work in different ways, and to bring in some of that joy and some of that creativity and some of that, the reasons why we got into this work in the first place. So yeah, it's been great working in Bolton. We've got a long history of Bolton. I used to run a little, now it would be called a social enterprise. At the time, didn't really have words for it, but
Sure.
I used to run a little thing. Well, it was called Fuse Crafters, and it turns into quite a big thing, which I set up while I was on maternity leave like 15 years ago. And I'm first bit of funding from Bolton CVS. So yeah, I've got a long history in the place.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful, and leads me on really nicely. So I have made no bones about being a bit of a fangirl of yours and all of your work. Like, I absolutely love what you guys do, and I've not seen anybody else do this work, or certainly not in the way that you do it. my favourite thing of all of your campaigns recently has been you talking about magic.
Yeah.
Like magic and life and work, like that feels so special, because lots of what you said there resonated with me, and I'm sure it will with lots of people, that, you know, we're all in this gig because we want to make a difference, and actually that comes with its challenges. So I absolutely love what you guys do. I'm really interested to kick us off. It's kind of like, how did you arrive here? How did you arrive at being the founder of this amazing organisation? Like, what's your history?
Well, when I was a kid, I used to like doing art, and that's all I really liked doing. So me and Faye and Tessa, we used to make ourselves and each other these little like activity books in the summer holidays.
That's amazing.
And do lots of like drawing things and mazes and word searches and all that kind of stuff. And we were talking the other day about how that's kind of what we do now. We create resources, we give people experiences. So I guess I wanted to do art at university. That was like my big goal. And I did that. I did textiles. And then I came out of that quite sort of disillusioned, because it was really, you know, go to London and be a textile designer, or, you know, we haven't really got anything for you.
Sure.
And there was weirdly no job connected to a textile degree. So I was very naive and started doing some volunteering. And I did some volunteering at Manchester Art Gallery on a program called the Creative Consultants, and it was like a young people's program, and it was about getting more families into Manchester Art Gallery to look at some of the art and interact with it. And that was such good kind of grounding for facilitation, for engagement and connecting with people. And so then for a long time I worked as like a jobbing artist. So I had a granny bag that was often I was often carrying around on the bus, because I didn't drive for a long time. And sometimes it had like willow sticking out of it, or sometimes it had like,
I can
was
picture
trailing
the scene
PVA.
very, very well. Yeah, glitter.
And I've still got a granny bag, and I'm an advocate for them. So yeah, I used to just turn up at random community centres, random, you know, sports halls, and sometimes galleries, and sometimes like workplaces, to do art workshops. And you could sort of hire me for anything. I was a bit of, you know, did anything really creative, but loved it.
Multi-potentialite, I do believe, is the word for us, isn't it?
Exactly.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah, exactly. But loved it. And it was really, but what it gave me was an amazing and big network of community work, you know, across Greater Manchester and beyond. And somewhere within all of that, I found out that I was quite good at writing funding applications.
Okay.
And I think that kind of went back to the sort of storytelling stuff with the, you know, the school holiday little activity things. I quite like telling the story about the future and imagining like all the possibilities and what could be, and then like convincing somebody that I could make it happen. So that led me into arts charities, and then from there, I actually worked at Bolton CBS for a little while, working on co-design stuff, which really was, it was a really interesting time. It was about 2014 maybe.
Okay.
And it was really the first time people were talking about this thing of co-production and co-design, and bringing together the voluntary sector with public sector and communities. And I got this job that had co-design in the title, and I didn't know what co-design meant. But it sounded a little bit like participatory art making, where we all have a part to play in making a thing, and we all bring our own ideas and experience to the thing. We do something together, and we make some kind of shared outcome. So that was like my frame of reference for co-production. And then, so from there, I went and worked in the NHS for a bit, working with primary care. And then back to infrastructure, working for Action Together. So they just got the contract for Rochdale to set up a new infrastructure organisation in Rochdale. So I worked there to do that for 3-4 years, and then left to set up A Brilliant Thing.
Yeah.
And the reason why I wanted to do something myself, initially it was just me. I was kind of back to that jobbing freelancer days. And honestly, that first year, I just said yes to everything. I did loads of random stuff.
Yeah, go wide and
Yeah,
then figure it out. Yeah,
exactly that. And it really felt like that period of like discover.
yeah.
Who do I want to work with? What
Sure.
kind of work do I want to be doing? Did lots of facilitation, lots of events, and loved it. But me and Faye and Tessa always knew that we were going to run a business together.
Okay.
Our maiden name is Bertram, and we used to always, with our mum, talk about the Bertram family dream.
Okay.
And the Bertram family dream has been lots of things over the years. It's always been some kind of business that sustains us and allows us to like shine in what we do and bring all our skills together. But over time, that's been a coffee shop, a like retreat center, like lots of different things.
Yeah.
In fact, Faye reminded me the other day, she found an old notebook of our first business idea, which was called Wedding in a Box.
Okay.
Which was like a kit that you could create to give to somebody who as an engagement present. And it had everything in this box to help them create a mood board and think about and like visualize their wedding so that they could then go on and anyway, it's a good idea. I think we should bring it back.
It is a good idea. I mean, I think we should trademark that here and now, to be honest. But really interested of how the thread, I mean, we'll go on to talk a little bit more about some of the stuff that you offer, but I know that that's really well, there's a thread of everything that you've done, isn't there, that runs through wanting to make things, help other people make things, like be creative.
Yeah. And I think in hindsight, you can see that trajectory, can't you? Whilst I was doing it, I was like,
sure, it felt like,
why am I doing this? Why am I in a field again, making like, I don't know, something
willow lanterns.
Yeah, a willow dragon. Oh, okay. So yeah, and we've all got quite different skills, but we're all kind of people. We all talk a lot. So I've got that creative background. Tessa's a counsellor. She used to work in social prescribing.
Okay.
And Faye, her background is in HR and partnerships. So it all kind of goes together. Right. Yeah. And our mum was a real, our mum died last year, sadly, but she was a real catalyst for this as well. She was one of the first counsellors that was ever based within a GP practice, like right back in the beginning days of counselling. And she was a real like pioneer for counselling.
Wow.
In her area and beyond, and she wrote a book, and then I've gone on to write a book. So she's a real inspiration and still with us in the organisation.
Of course, yeah. Oh, that's beautiful.
That's where we came from.
And I love that, and that. I mean, it's your business kind of. How your business works embodies everything that you talk about in your business, that care and compassion, that finding the way that you shine and bringing that to the table. Like, I absolutely love all that. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And do you know what? That's by design.
Yeah.
Sure. So, we've all, me and my sisters, but probably all of us have worked in organisations and worked in places where we've been squashed or pushed into the wrong situation or not allowed and I don't know if it's something about kind of our personalities, but there's a real like questioning about why does it have to be that way? Yeah, sure. And so healing centered design, which is this framework that we've developed, it is the way to get to the place where we're not saying that everyone has to run an organization with their sisters and make stuff.
No.
What we're saying is that everyone has needs and everyone has purpose. And if you can design your work around those things, then you're going to create something brilliant.
Yeah. And that's why, to segue me on ever so slightly, that's like why we invited you to come and be a mentor as part of the Proper Good programme. So you've mentored a number of organisations now in the 3 years that our business mentoring programme's been running. And that was why we kind of got in touch with you, because we could see this work and we knew that this would be really sort of useful and important for lots of the people. I've said this loads of times on the podcast, but entrepreneur burnout is a huge issue and one of the significant contributory factors to businesses closing. And it's even more kind of prominent in the social enterprise sector.
Totally.
And what I also know is that alongside that care and compassion, stuff that people might perceive to be fluffy, it's not fluffy, it's central. But alongside that, I also know that you've got and I've observed in the development of your own business, amazing sort of business development acumen, skill and know how to make something that, ideas that you can turn into something that can sustain you, as you said earlier. So thanks, first of all, for being a mentor. And I know there's so many people who've had such a wonderful experience with you. And we've had quite a few mentees on the podcast, and we've had a few mentors, but we've never actually spoken about the experience of mentoring before. So I just wanted to ask you a little bit about like, how is that? Like, have you learned anything from it? And I guess for the purposes of the people watching, have there been any kind of key themes or bits of stuff that you think might be interesting to share for people?
So we've had quite a few mentees, and they've all been really different. So I think the first thing is the first session is just a joy, because I get to hear everything that's top of mind. And sometimes people talk about their history or the projects that they've done before, but often it's a kind of blah. So people will talk about all the things that are like the pressing things for them right now. And that's so useful, because it gives us a really good starting point to design what matters for them next. So for some people, it's designing that grand plan. For other people, it's often transitioning from one thing to another, kind of scaling, growing, those kind of things come up. But I think probably the biggest theme throughout is people need, I think, to have reflected back to them how brilliant they are. So validation is in short supply in our sector. So validation, being valued, being recognised, and not just in a well done kind of way, but I often reflect back, what I'm hearing is X, Y, Z, and this is why I think that's so important and so valuable. And even if that had been the very first starting point for people of why they'd set something up, they have to sustain belief and purpose, and often convince other people or influence outwards. And so actually providing that space initially where people can just hear why they're brilliant. And I really enjoy that listening part and spotting that stuff. And then we can go from there. So then we can, that first session is quite unstructured. And then after that, I'll pull together a bit of I think we could work on these things. So it might be prioritizing or decision making, or looking at funding, or looking at team or something. But then it's all through the lens of what they need. And their work is most probably about looking after or supporting other people. So I think any training or development opportunity should have an element of looking after and supporting that person. And I guess what I've learned is it's, I guess, reinforced that everyone is brilliant. Like, everyone has an idea. Everyone has the ability to make it happen. Everyone's got something unique about them. And the way that it's like the how is so important. So it's not just what you do. I think a lot of, when we first started up, we did a few kind of more traditional business development programs and courses and things. And it was so cookie cutter. And so, this is exactly, you have to say this thing, then this thing, then this thing, and your hook and all of that. And whilst it's important to be concise sometimes, actually, especially with AI, anybody can write something that sounds brilliant. And if it's not got any of your personality in, or you feel like you've got to hide your difference and uniqueness, then you just blend in. So if we can create some safe spaces where people can like show their difference and really be honoured for it, that's when people start feeling more confident in who they are.
I couldn't agree more. Some of my background was running a business and did a bit of traditional business development stuff. I felt like this doesn't resonate at all with what we're trying to do. And then met somebody who said similar things to you, like, no, actually, talk about a USP. Actually, that's just you and your personality. And I just couldn't agree more. Especially, I mean, with everything that you said, but the bit around helping people feel valued, and the why and the how. We really recognise that often I mean, as any business owner, but I think particularly as a social business
Mhm.
owner, it can be really isolating, especially if it's just you, a
Yeah.
solo entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And it's so important, isn't it, to be in a community of people or have someone who's kind of cheering you on and saying, oh, remember, this is why you're doing it.
Yeah.
And yeah, this bit is really hard, but remember, this is the why, and take care of yourself, and to be able to feel re-energized. Like
Yeah.
we see people getting depleted
Mhm.
and you know, you're on the hustle, aren't you? Where
Yeah.
you're running a social
Yeah.
enterprise, you're on the hustle, and that's tiring. And if you've not got somebody reflecting back to you, that kind of,
Mhm.
but you are brilliant and this is worthwhile,
Yeah.
and remember, this is why.
Yeah, totally.
I think it's really important. And you know, that diversity of people and approaches is what
Mhm.
makes our sector amazing, isn't it? It's why it's the place where the innovation's happening. It's
Exactly.
why it can be so responsive, and it feels like, and maybe it's because I'm in this bit of it and I know
Mhm.
wonderful people like you, but it feels like there is a shift happening that's kind of recognizing that actually there is a place for everyone and everyone can show up in their own
Yeah.
ways, and together we make an amazing whole, like you were
Yeah.
saying, you know.
Yeah, totally. And, we feel that stress and pressure as well of, having to perform or having to deliver all the time. And that's part of the reason why I work with my sisters.
Yeah.
And often when, when you do something boring, like you complete a spreadsheet or often I'll send it to one of them and be like, can I have some validation, please? And they're like, yes, brilliant, Kerry, well done. I'm like, phew, thank you.
Yeah.
And like, because it's my sisters, none of us are going to get annoyed about that or be.
Yeah.
So I think like we recognize that too. I think what's changing is that maybe we need more translators. So what I mean by that is you've got brilliant people doing really unique, special work, and then you've got people who are buying or commissioning that work, or could buy or commission that work too. So you've got people over here with a set of problems, set of challenges that they're trying to solve, and people over here with doing a load of brilliant things. It's hard sometimes for those two places to understand each other. So it feels scary to commission the clown to do a community engagement project when usually what you've had is a survey. It's so far removed. So if we can help people who are buying, commissioning feel safe, as well as the people who are doing that work, and then provide platforms and opportunities for people to come together and recognize that they're wanting the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's why I think programs like this and infrastructure, so CBSs, are so important, because it's that kind of independent facilitation to get the biggest bang for your buck, really.
And that is what it comes down to, isn't it? And on a previous episode, and lots of conversations that we both having at the time, it is that thing of when you talk about that kind of that trying to develop a shared language and a shared understanding, and you might talk about that in terms of social impact or social accounting or just talking to each other, however you would frame that. It's kind of maybe those people who buy the services are worried or have a risk aversion to commissioning something new. But actually, when we look around at inequality and health inequality and life chances and life outcomes, actually, maybe the real risk is that we don't do something differently, and we allow things to continue as they are. And so I think you're absolutely right. That role of translators, that's a beautiful way to frame it, of being able to say, well, but this is a different solution to the thing that you've been trying to do and failing. So let's give it a go. What's the worst that can happen,
Exactly. And I think part of our kind of social responsibility as an organisation is to, obviously, as a CIC, you need to put, money back into your community. But how we do that is by platforming people. So we will create events and opportunities to platform those two, or maybe not just two, those different kind of sides of the coin, so that people can be in the same space together, be inspired by each other, see what each other are doing. And then even if they are speaking a different language, they've got a shared memory. And a lot of the facilitated work we do is really about creating memories so that people have the confidence in whatever that thing was,
Yeah, sure.
and can talk about it and share that message and spread it.
Yeah. And everything that you've just said there is so, and I know that you're connected in with this work as well, is, we're talking about the Live Well movement in Greater Manchester at the moment, and I imagine everybody listening to this is in Greater Manchester, but if you're not, that's the kind of thing that's going on in Greater Manchester. Check it out. Is everything that you just talked about there. It's that how do we get people in the same room? I love that idea of sharing memories. And there's a couple of things that I'm working on that I'd definitely like to pick up those threads with you around. We talked again on the podcast previously around measuring outcomes and outputs and impact, and how do we do that in a way that actually satisfies the people that need satisfying, but actually tell some of that story. You opened by talking about how you love to weave a story and convince other people that you can do it, and that is so at the core of what we do as organisations and what we're trying to do in infrastructure. But again, that need for a shared language to understand those things, I think, is really important. And I love the work that you're doing, because it works on a real you work individually with people around how they can care for themselves in this brilliant work that they do, but also kind of the extrapolation of that to systems and systemic issues is so important. And I love how you're able to kind of weave the two together to try and create these places that care.
And I mentioned a spreadsheet before, and let's go back to the spreadsheet, because like process is really important. So practice, often within the work that we do with healing centered design, we work out what needs to be amended and what needs to be tended to. So like what needs to be fixed and changed and repaired, and what needs to be nurtured and supported. And often we'll get a group to that point where they're like, yeah, these things don't work, and these are things that are really important to us. And I think often in projects that I've been part of, that's where the conversation stops. And what that does is it doesn't take you on to, well, how are we going to do it? How are we going to set up the ways of working, the practices, and the step-by-step things that we're going to do to make this thing happen. So we've got a process called micro missions that we use for that, but processes to track things, to capture things in the way that the person who's on the other end of that understands. Even things like communication processes. So how are we going to communicate back to different parts of the system or different people? All of that stuff. It might sound boring or difficult, but it's how things land, and it's how, like, I remember I used to have this boss, not in Greater Manchester, but she was brilliant. She was a real communicator, and she could get anyone to pay for anything. She was, larger than life, one of those characters. She couldn't use a laptop, couldn't use her emails. Like, she really did. So she had somebody to help her with that. But she used to say, oh, I really like working with you, Kerry, because you like show and tell. So you'll make a thing and show it, make a thing and show it. And after a while, I realized that what I was doing was feeding her story, feeding her personality. And there were challenges with that. And I definitely, my ego was a bit bruised as well. But actually, if we can give people the things that they need to be able to make the things happen in the spaces that they're in, why wouldn't we do it? As long as, they credit us and we're clear about it, and we talk about it as well.
And I've been really fortunate to have a go at some of those tools and processes that you're talking about. And I know that you've got a lot of tools and techniques and templates and various different things that make some of that boring stuff much less boring. I remember you showing me I can't even bloody remember what it was called, and it was a way to kind of basically create a project plan that involved 4 squares and some beautiful coloured pens, and I was just like, yes,
is it the logic model?
It was the logic model, and I was like, yes, this is how we should do this work. I also love the kind of analog quality to a lot of your work, which I appreciate very, very much. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about, so the reason that I've been able to get up close to those things is because I was part of a piece of work called the Compassion Circle, wasn't I? Which was a beautiful few months where we came together as a group of people who work within BCSE organisations to explore healing-centred design. And we did that in both a kind of ideas and theoretical way and in a real practical way, and had a look at some tools. And like on a personal level, it was such a wonderful experience to be in that, just to have that protected space with those people and explore those things. And I think there's something in this work, even when actually, because we were all there thinking about our work and thinking professionally, but you almost can't look at your professional life through this healing-centered lens without also looking at yourself a little bit. So it did just feel like a really healing space, and lots of us made relationships that have sustained outside of that, and it's beautiful, and I felt really lucky to be part of it, and I hope there'll be opportunities to be again. So that really made me think that what I would love for us to spend a bit of time doing now is for just you to have a platform to kind of talk a bit about healing-centered design, really, like where it came from, what is it, why is it important, kind of anything, I guess, that you might want to say, because having experienced it in that kind of toe in the water, but got these resources I can draw on, I can really see how important it is for the people working in our sector, for the people that we're trying to influence, to maybe also understand a little bit. Like, it feels really central, and especially with it, within the social enterprise sector, definitely within this new sort of emphasis that we've got on public services through Live Well. It feels like, if ever an idea had its time, it feels like now
is the time.
So I'd love
hope so.
for you to just kind of talk to us a bit about.
Okay. So, where do I start? So, back when I was working for the NHS, on my first day of working for the NHS, I thought I'd cracked the system, right? I'd been working in charities for years, and this was before social prescribing was really a thing. And been like knocking on doors of GP practices and, trying to champion this idea that actually communities, creativity, all of this stuff has a real powerful influence on health and mental health. Anyway, now I had this job in the NHS, and I was going to go in and like change the system and right on, sister. And I've told this story a few times, but it still makes me feel a bit like, oh God. But so if you can imagine, I was in like, because I wasn't really changing the system, I was conditioned by the system. I was wearing like a high heels and blazer, and it was my first day, and I was nervous, but excited. And my boss was away. A couple of people in the team weren't in, and actually the office that I was supposed to be going to was being refurbished. So I'd kind of turned up at this setting and didn't have anywhere to go. But I'd been given this kind of timetable of things to do. So some of them were to look at go on this long corridor of very important people that had things like chairman written on the door, and the doors were all shut, and I had to go and knock on the doors and go and introduce myself. Terrifying.
Oh, that sounds delightful.
Delightful. But the first thing I had to do was go to this workshop called ACEs. Not workshop, a lecture called ACEs. Okay. And I didn't know what ACEs was, but I thought, oh, ACE, that sounds fun. And then I got there, and it was this huge room, and all of these, employees, nobody I knew. And I walked in and sat down, and ACEs came up on the screen, and it was about adverse childhood experiences. So it was about trauma, and it was about children who experience trauma and people who experience trauma and the lasting impacts on their life. So there was statistics like, you're going to die sooner, you're not going to get a job, you're going to be poorer, you're going to go to prison probably, all of these kind of statistics flashing up. And I'd gone in there with my like save the world hat on, and I just felt completely demoralized, and I felt like all of those statistics were about me,
Yeah.
because there'd been, there's reasons why I'm passionate about social change and about healing and about trauma informed practice. And so I just felt like completely deflated and like, I'm not going to change anything. All my like power went, and I went and sat in a corridor because like I didn't know where to go, and had to like hold it together and then put a smile on my face and then like go and knock on this chairman's door and interrupt someone very busy and annoy them. And it was just
how to not onboard somebody.
Oh my God, it was so disempowering. And that's not to take away anything from the team or the organization or the work, but it really made me think, like, if that would have been done in a different way, I would have felt very differently. It would have impacted me really differently. And someone knowing where I was, someone checking in with me afterwards, someone making sure I knew what this lecture was going to be about, that not happening on my very first hour of my very first day lots of things could be done that wouldn't cost money, that would have supported me. So I guess that was one experience. And then the other kind of thing alongside that is I have endometriosis. I've got a chronic bladder condition as well because of that. And a lot of the time I have like really high levels of pain. So I'm talking like 3 tramadol hot bath for 3 hours pain. And that's often in the middle of the night. So that experience of pain, the way that I like my kind of healthy coping mechanism in the past has been work.
Okay.
So overwork, probably.
We'll put healthy in
healthy to start off with.
Quotes there.
Yeah, exactly. And channeling that pain into something positive, it has been really helpful for me. Wonderful. It tips over sometimes, but has been really helpful. And then when I started talking to people about that, pain, we're often working to counteract what I call societal pain. So the pain that's caused by inequality, injustice, things not being right, things being difficult for some people, not others. So that was the world I was in work-wise, trying to counteract that kind of societal pain. But then I was feeling this personal pain that felt very separate and I couldn't bring to work. And actually I was using work to get away from that pain. But when I started talking to people about that and those worlds started crossing over, I sort of realized that everybody's experienced pain, whether that's an injury or a chronic health condition or grief or a breakup or and that might be more emotional pain or societal pain where you're feeling some of those things. And actually the root cause of some of your physical pain might be the environment that you're in. So this idea of pain not being exclusive to a personal experience, but this pain as a collective experience, then took me through to this idea of power. So I know people change stuff when they feel like they can. So when they feel like they can change an environment, change a situation, speak up, take an action, often that can be a catalyst for changing some of the bigger stuff, whether that's, personal pain or societal pain. And so these ideas blended with the work that I was already doing around design thinking, which is a design methodology, and systems thinking, which is about looking not just at the individual symptom, but looking at the root cause and everything around that symptom. And the co-production work that I was doing and the creative coaching and the creative stuff that I've been doing forever, all of that kind of turned into healing-centered design. One of the ways that healing-centered design became the framework that it is was writing the book. So I've written a book called Healing-Centered Transformation, which brings together these things of personal pain, societal pain, and then transforming that into this collective power where we feel empowered, but we can also make a difference together. And going through that process and with my sisters as well, really made us stop and think about, well, what's the how? So like I was saying before, like, what are the ways that we can get there? And this is where we've got our principles. So we've got 5 principles, which are design principles. So if you design your work, your team, your life, your practice, whatever you're designing, if you use these principles, you're going to create a healthy, safe, supportive thing, which allows capacity, gives you capacity, and actually makes a difference, makes an impact. And they're not groundbreaking principles, but I think it's the combination of them that's exciting. So, for example, one of them is rhythm and ritual, which is about regulation. So it's about creating patterns and certainty and safety. But then we've also got one which is collide and align, which is about intentionally finding difference and bringing things together, and that's about creating innovation. So sometimes if things feel chaotic or it's scattered or uncertain, then rhythm and ritual is the principle to really like hunker down on. But if you're feeling bored and stuck and then you try and implement a new habit and a routine, well, you're not going to get anywhere. What you need is collide and align. So you need inspiration and the spark of something new, and like to hear a different opinion or to get challenged. Sometimes that includes kind of conflict or tension as well. So the way that we use the principles is about understanding our individual needs and our needs within the team or within the organisation or the project, and then designing the work to meet those needs so that we get the intended outcome and we feel good while we're doing it. That's the that's the ultimate goal. We want to feel healthy and well and supported and safe, and inspired.
And the tools that I know sit within all that framework as well are such kind of accessible, playful, almost ways to explore those principles and then think about the how. I think it's really it's come through a lot. I think you've been talking that the how, because it's great, isn't it, to have the realization and do the thinking and understand the stuff. But if you don't then have the process, if you don't have the how, then that, as you say, that's where it stops. And I've observed that loads in my career, and I'm definitely part of that as well, because I'm a bit as pro sister, can get a bit like that. But it's so important, because that's where we end up stuck, and that's how we don't tell the next bit of the story. That's how we don't move through the bit that's hard and end up perpetually complaining about that this bit's hard, isn't it?
Totally.
Those tools are super important. I can't and I've definitely said this to you before, but the principles of healing centered design align so much in my mind with the permaculture principles. I don't know if you've ever come across permaculture. And I think that's why I was so drawn to it in the compassion circle. And I've only done a bit of sort of surface level work around permaculture, but that kind of connection of the individual to the environment and society, and having these guiding principles that, as you say, they're kind of flexible, but they're to bring you to a place of thought and reflection where you can then look at, what's the tool that I can use to move me on from this place? And I think there's something really important and beautiful about a system of thinking and design that allows you to think about where you are as an individual, but also where you sit within the greater whole. And that might be an individual in an organisation or an organisation within an ecosystem or whatever. I think the healing centre design principles really do that in the same way that the permaculture principles do. They allow you to move from yourself outwards, which I think is really beautiful and necessary.
And it goes back to that making memories thing. We could learn about a subject and then we could go and teach about that subject. But if we've not got a personal connection or like something that connects us to that thing, no one's going to be learning from us. And I think with the processes, that's why the design bit is so important, because so I'm thinking about an organisation that we've worked with for a couple of years. So they're called Emerald Lens. They're based in Trafford, and we've also worked with them in their other guise as Enjoy Arts. But so Emerald Lens do this brilliant work they're doing a project at the moment with women, which is about exploring Irish heritage, their Irish heritage. And they're doing it in Manchester and Liverpool and Leeds, and it's so much about societal conditioning and societal influence, and it's about racism and sexism, and it's about kind of historical trauma, and it's also about the personal experience of the woman who comes with her mum who's got dementia, and they do like some dance or some ceramics or some something to explore themselves and their heritage and their place in history and their place in society. It's such a powerful piece of work. But Emerald Lens said they're funded, so they have to write funding reports, right? And they don't want to do trackers, they don't want to do spreadsheets. Their zone of genius is around creativity and empowerment. And so what we're helping them with is we meet with them every 3 months and we do a snapshot session where we just listen to stories. So we've already designed a framework of the indicators of well-being that they're trying to create and the themes of the work. And then in this snapshot session, I listen. They can tell me stories of the work. Sometimes I go along to the work as well. And then from that, I can pull out those themes. We can measure those indicators. We can get some solid numbers. We can also get some case studies. And it's done in such a lovely, it's often over a coffee. So it's creating a process that works for them and tells the story about their powerful systems change work that also feels like a really empowering individual experience. And because we're doing that work together, that impact's going to be visible. It's going to be influential. And it's gonna matter.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, as you say, that mechanism for capturing that allows the extraction of both the narrative and the data. So also the funder is satisfied there as well. Like, I love that. That. The Proper Good program, actually, going back a little while, the kind of the structure around it has changed a little bit, but at one time we have to obviously do a quarterly report to our funders around the program and what we're doing. And one of my old colleagues with our old investment partner, she did our reporting whereby we just had an hour together on Teams, and I talked at her and she made notes, and I was just like, this is and I still also had to fill in a spreadsheet with some stuff, and that's fine, but that it really revolutionized for me thinking about how we do that, about how we measure, how we track impact, and how we talk to people about that. And the reason that worked was because she designed a system and a process, and her brain worked like that, so she liked it. But she spent some time at the front end designing this thing, took us through a guided process every quarter, and actually that for me was just, I was able to excitedly talk about the work, and she got everything that she needed. And I think
she was a translator.
She absolutely was a translator. And I hope that I'm sort of able to do a little bit of that, because I've had that learning and you're obviously doing it. And I think it's so important, isn't it? It's so important to what we're doing. Emerald Lens sound amazing.
They're really great. They're really great. They do performances. They're doing we've got an event in March, and hopefully they're going to be doing a performance which is called, or part of a performance. They've got some funding for, and they've just started the project for Women's Health the musical. Wow. So that's actually with Enjoy Arts, which is connected to Emerald Lens.
Oh, I mean, that's everything, right? That's exactly what we all need. Oh, that's phenomenal.
So we've got this event at Manchester Museum.
Tell us about your event that I know that's coming up.
So it's called Men's in 10. So it's based on my book launch last year. So last year had a book launch, but I wanted to do it as one of these platform events. So we brought together 20 contributors, all doing work around kind of empowerment, social change kind of stuff. And we created a space where people could speak or run a workshop or have a stall. It was a really energizing and inspiring event. We held that at Grit Studios, which I have a hot desk at in Manchester. But this time it's going to be at Manchester Museum, and they've given us the whole of the top floor, which is just an amazing space. It's really adaptable, and we're looking for contributors who can tell the story or show us how they've done this work around transforming pain into power. So we're really going back to that kind of central transition of our work. And so we're going to have speakers, we're going to have some workshops, and stall holders from social enterprises, people who are doing the work of change, to talk to us about how they're creating that change, how they're creating those movements with their work. And we're platforming, so the people on the stage will be the people who have the personal experience as well. So it won't be experts telling you how to do it yourself. It will be people sharing how they've created change and inspiring others. So this Mend and Tend is the culmination of Inspiration Season, which is a campaign that we're running at the moment to really infuse inspiration into this part of the year, which is January to March, because it's a tough end of the year.
It's a graft, January to March, isn't it?
Exactly. So what we want is for health, education and community sectors to feel inspired, because that's the starting point. When you get that spark of inspiration and you can then inspire other people, that's how things start. So Inspiration Season is all about that. We're sharing lots of content, and you can sign up to an inspiration list, and we send out a monthly email. But also we've got lots of development opportunities that we're offering during this period, and then culminating with the Mend and Tend event. So it's on the 14th of March, which is a Saturday. So it's a Saturday or a Sunday.
I think it's a Saturday
Morning.
Yeah, I've already had a look in my diary.
Yeah, I think it is a Saturday morning. And we're going to be platforming loads of brilliant people, and it's just going to be a dream.
It'll be wonderful. And I wasn't able to make it to the last event because children and motherhood, but I heard so much wonderful stuff. Everybody that spoke to, I made so many great connections. It was beautiful. I came away feeling really inspired, really empowered. I think anything that you'd hope to create in that space definitely happened. People,
and it's about the people. That event and this event coming up. Really, like, one of my aims for that event last year was not to be in charge on the day, right? So we created we had a space, we had an amazing space, just like we've got at Manchester Museum. We're connecting at the moment with brilliant people that have got stuff to share and want to talk about stuff. And then we're inviting them to the museum to have a look around and choose a space and then tell us what you're going to do in that space. Yeah. And then we'll promote that. And that's literally it, just creating that platform, supporting people to be able to do something and bringing an audience together. If we can do that well, then it's going to be magic.
And magic, and that's it, and that is where the magic happens, isn't it? Where you creating the space, isn't it? Creating the safety. And that style of event organisation is my absolute dream. I love an event where you don't feel like you're in charge. You just everybody's just doing their thing, and because all these wonderful people, of course, you just got to put them in a room, and it's going to be great.
Lots of my, that in those jobbing artist days, some of those jobbing artist jobs were running festivals, which sounds like a big important job, and there was no money attached to it, really. There was no, timescales were shifting. It was, and so it had to be done like that. It had to be like, what have we got? And I used to work in a school as well, and quite often the school would tell me, I was with a different class, or I had two classes together, or could I do a workshop for the whole school? I was an artist in residence. And I used to just go in the art cupboard and be like, what have I got 30 of? And that was my starting point.
What we're doing.
Exactly. So these events are like, what have we got the space for? What could we do?
Yeah.
And then over to you. Let's work out how to do it.
And you say that in such a kind of, well, of course, sort of way. I think that's really revolutionary and transformative, actually, isn't it? To be able to approach, because you can obviously extrapolate that to anything that you might be doing in your work, to not be like, obviously things have to exist within frameworks often, but to not be completely constrained by that, and to be able to be responsive and to have the courage, I guess, to be able to go, well, it's okay if this doesn't look how I thought it was going to look. This is what we've got and this is what we're going to do. And I think often, I mean, I guess I'm talking about myself here, but some of where kind of professional stress and anxiety can come from is like, oh, it's supposed to be this way and this thing. But I'm working with this resource palette. And how do I marry the two? And maybe it's about, well, or maybe you don't. And maybe you create the thing that you can create.
Yeah, and you do that when you feel safe.
Of course.
So if you've got
that can only come from
a partner,
place.
a boss, a colleague, a friend who can be alongside you with it, and you know, so then safety has to become the first thing, because we know it will create the conditions for these other things to happen.
That's such a beautiful sentiment. We are definitely coming towards the end of our conversation because I've seen the lovely Jo walks past with a timer. I always like to end by asking people a couple of questions. The first one, as you say, it's inspiration season, a brilliant thing at the moment, which I'm very much valuing. You shared a prompt on your socials right just after Christmas, I think, which was ask yourself the question, wouldn't it be brilliant if? And oh my word, how that is going round and round in my head. I have a number of answers, not all of which are suitable for this public platform. But I think that's such a brilliant question. And thank you for sharing it. But I always ask all of our guests, what inspires you? So we're working in this space that can sometimes feel hard, challenging. I mean, my goodness, you've shared yourself that you've got your own kind of personal struggles, and maybe you wouldn't frame them like that, but things that you've got to work through. Like what or who inspires you to keep going?
So I think
have a minute.
I think it's combinations of stuff that inspire me. I don't think it's any one thing. So I think when you've got an artist and a scientist and a dinner lady in a room, if you could just have a bit of time with those people to have time together and learn about each other, you are going to create something brilliant. You're going to have some kind of brilliant story, connection, idea. I think when we bring things together from different worlds, I am quite keen on astrology. I'm quite keen on alignment and that kind of really bigger picture stuff. But I'm also really keen on like my morning routine or like my stuff that keeps me really grounded. And I think it's the combination of those things together and being able to flex between things that keeps me inspired. So if I'm feeling not inspired, I need to go and spend some time in a place where I'm not usually. So, or have a conversation with somebody who I haven't spoken to for a long time, or go and read a book about something that I know nothing about. So I think it's the combinations of things, and I think the thing that keeps me inspired is always looking for those combinations.
Sure.
And that goes with the permaculture stuff. So when you think about those patterns in nature that are repeating in loads of places, and it's only when you notice them that you see them.
But then you see them all the time.
Exactly. So I think it's combinations of stuff.
No, and I love that. And it's a standard question to be asked in a job interview, isn't it? Are you big picture or small detail? And I always think, well, both, surely.
Yeah, well, both.
Surely. I
used to write on job applications. I used to write strategic thinking and operational doing.
I love that.
Yeah, and it used to be on my LinkedIn profile. I don't know if it's still there, but like I definitely think if you can allow, because I think everybody can do that.
And I think everybody needs it. The kind of to understand the why and the where almost, to be able to then do the what and the how.
Yes, exactly.
In whatever bit of the world you're working in. I think we all sort of need that to a point, and maybe some of our disconnection comes from that we're either one or the other. And we kind of need a bit of both.
Yeah, and I think it's a muscle. It's a muscle to flex. It's not a way that you are.
No.
Yeah,
and I guess lots of people perhaps don't get the opportunity to explore that, do they? But I feel similar. And then the other question that I always ask is, if you had kind of one piece of advice, a message, it might be to other people leading organisations that you do, or it might be to people designing systems, or it might be to another woman who's having some challenges. Like, if you had one thing that you'd like to share with the world, what would it be?
So I'm going to say you first.
Yeah.
And I'm aware that I feel slightly anxious about saying that because the immediate like connotations are around selfish and people, but it's really important. It's not just important because fill your own cup first so that you can look after other people. That's not why you should look after yourself first. You should look after yourself first because if you don't have the experience of being looked after, then you're not going to be able to understand how to change anything. So if you've got like a big vision about wanting things to be better in the world, like having the lived experience yourself, both of the pain and the power. The power of feeling well rested, the power of having somebody to talk to, the power of eating well, all the nourishing things. If you haven't got the lived experience of both of those ends of the spectrum, then how can you understand the journey between the two? And that is so hard. It's so hard to do you first, but you've got to do it.
Yeah.
You've got to do it.
Yeah. Again, I agree. And I'm not great at it, and I don't mean that in some kind of martyr way. We're not. And again, it's a muscle to flex, isn't it? And I think it can be. I've got friends who are better at it than others, and I know I've got a friend who will often say, like, because I just love how you're able to prioritize that for your creativity, whatever, for yourself. She say, sometimes I feel like I step too far the other way, and I'm not kind of. And I think it's a tricky sort of balancing act, isn't it? But I observe in myself and so many people that when you don't do that, when you don't do the you first, then you don't have that power. You don't have that power to be able to affect change or care for others.
It's your responsibility.
It is ultimately, isn't it? And I love that word that you use there, nourish, like nourishment. I think that's super important. And if you don't know how to nourish yourself, you can't really nourish others. It's
And there's a coach I used to work with, and she used to say, like, it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. And if we work in any kind of change work, whether that's in a business or a charity or a community, then we have a responsibility to place ourselves within that change work, because it's very ego-led and it's very selfish, I think, to think that you are the helper and you will help somebody else and you're not part of that equation, because the power dynamics are all over the place.
It's really paternalistic then, isn't it? If you're somehow some objective thing that's helping everybody and stepping away from it. And that's not where we want to be, is it?
Yeah. So if we have to put ourselves into this work, which I strongly believe we do, then it's our responsibility for us to be the most, I'm wary of saying the word resilient, but the strongest person that we can be, the most empowered person, powerful in a collective power kind of way person. So we have to maybe not center ourselves, but we have to be in there with it.
Well, we have to recognise it, don't we? And there's kind of, I guess, the myth of objectivity, and that maybe comes from the social science or whatever in our world, that somehow you can be separate from it, and you can't possibly be separate from this work. You just can't,
and you wouldn't want to be.
No,
that's not why you do it.
No, exactly, you wouldn't. We're all in it. We're all in this game because we care, don't we? In whatever way that is, we're all in it because we care. I love that. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. It's not your responsibility.
It's not your fault,
but it is your responsibility.
Bad things happen. You might feel a certain way. Things might be a certain way. That's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to change it, to process it, to learn from it, to grow.
I love it. That's beautiful. So if folks listening, watching would like to get in touch with you and get involved with A Brilliant Thing, I know that you have lots of different ways that people can connect with the work that you have on offer. Where's the best place for them to do that?
So the best place is our website, so brilliantthing.co.uk, and you can find social links and things from there. But we've always got stuff going on for organisations, particularly health, community, education organisations and individuals who work in those sectors as well. So in March, we've got our event. So come have a look at Inspiration Season. Go to the website and look for Inspiration Season. And we'd love to welcome you to the event.
Yeah. Beautiful. Great. Well, thank you so much for coming and chatting with us. It's been an absolute joy.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks, Lisa. Thank you.